If Senator Paul wants to start looking at where he's going to cut spending to afford defense, maybe he should start looking at cutting the pork barrel spending that he brings home to Kentucky.
Governor Christie can't point to any votes that I've ever voted to bring pork barrel projects to any state.
Governor Chris Christie and Senator Rand Paul, two potential Republican presidential candidates, demonstrating the divide these days inside the GOP. And we're back now with a panel. Well, there is a growing split among Republicans on a number of issues, from national surveillance to spending, and we may see that playing out on the panel here right now. Bill, on Obamacare, folks from the Tea Party wing, including Senator DeMint, say no funding the government unless you defund Obamacare. Why are they wrong?
Well, they're right to want to fight Obamacare, and they're right, I think, that the leadership in the House, and especially in the Senate, hasn't done enough to try to force votes, especially in the Senate, to defund parts of it or delay parts of Obamacare. There are extremely vulnerable parts. The House did a good job in passing delays in both mandates, the individual and employer mandate, and got Democratic votes. Senator McConnell on Thursday night has, I think, tried to put it on the Senate calendar, invoked this mysterious Rule 14 that I don't understand, but I'm sure Jim does from his days in the Senate, and I think they might be able to force a vote in September. So I give Heritage, and I give Senator Cruz and Senator Lee and the others credit for pushing, for fighting, which is good, and I think there are more intelligent, perhaps more ways tactically to fight than simply saying, you know, we're going to defund all of Obamacare, and if you don't vote, and then voting for any continuing resolution that doesn't fully defend Obamacare is surrender. Because it's going to be very hard to fully defund all of Obamacare with President Obama as president.
I have to say, Bill Kristol was disappointingly diplomatic there, Senator DeMint. Some leading Republicans say this is crazy. Tom Cole says it's suicidal. Richard Burr, your former colleague in the Senate, says it is, quote, the dumbest idea I've ever heard. What are they missing?
Chris, Obamacare is unfair, it's unworkable, it's unaffordable, and it's very unpopular. Even the Democrats who wrote the bill say it's a train wreck. President Obama has agreed it's not ready for prime time.
I understand that you don't like that, but what about the Republicans who say it's crazy to hold the government funding hostage?
This is a very destructive law that's going to hurt our country. It's going to hurt a lot of people. This may be the last opportunity to stop it. Now, there's no Republican that I'm aware of who wants to shut the government down. The whole point is we need to fund the government, but we should not fund Obamacare. As this is a temporary funding mechanism that's coming up in September. It should not be funded, and this would be a statement.
But Senator, you know, what they say is you don't take a hostage unless you're prepared to shoot him.
Right.
And if you're going to go down this road, are you prepared to shut down the government? Because the Democrats are not going to go along with this. Are you prepared to shut down the government?
I wouldn't shut down the government, but if Obama would not accept a funding bill for the government that fully funds the government because it didn't have his failed law in it, then he would be shutting down the government. And that's a case we're going to take to the American people in August. Through Heritage Action, we're going to be doing dozens of town halls around the country. And I'm convinced the more Americans know about Obamacare, the more they're going to stand with those of us who want to stop it.
Howie, what's going on here? It isn't just Obamacare. It's also on spending. You see some Republicans pulling back now from the sequester. They say it's too tough for domestic programs in their districts. Big fight, as we just saw in the first segment, about surveillance and restrictions on the NSA. What's going on? Why the split inside the party, and why is it playing out so early in this cycle?
A lot of mainstream Republicans are upset, even angry at what you might call the bomb-throwing wing of the party, led by Senator Ted Cruz and others, for these kinds of threats. Not because they don't want to defund Obamacare, not because they're happy with the sequester, but because this is feel-good politics. It's a political statement. It makes your base feel good, but ultimately it disappoints those who are on your side, because when you only control one half of the legislative branch, you can't force your will on the rest of it. And here's the irony. Obamacare remains fairly unpopular, though people do like some of the benefits, like no pre-existing conditions, and there's clearly problems with its implementation. This GOP infighting is taking the spotlight off problems with the law and putting it on the deep divisions within the Republican Party.